Jennifer Macau. Now, have you ever experienced a real cultural dance? Well, I'll usher you into the International Youth Fellowship dance team that is from Kenya, which has scooped an international trophy after taking to the top position at the International Youth Camp that was held in South Korea. The Kenya's International Youth Fellowship dance team showcased their cultural array in a competitive dance that was organized by the Worldwide International Youth Fellowship, whose vision is to create a world where all young people are inspired and equipped to realize their future and what they want, with a mission of connecting young people with the opportunities to transform their lives through the change of their mindset, with a slogan of sleeping with joy and waking up with happiness. As the organizer, founder and pastor Oxo Park always states, here is more on the same. Well, the founder is none other than Pastor Oxo Park, and that is the IYF dance. And bravo to them as they bring the reward home. Now, moving on. An acting police inspector General Douglas Kanja on Wednesday banned protests in the capital indefinitely, just hours before planned protests seeking a lack of leadership to ensure a peaceful demonstration. However, the High Court has suspended his decision following a petition challenging the ban. The petition argues for the right of the police to peacefully assemble and demonstrate, with the police role being to protect them and not use excessive force. Here is more on the same.
The ban on protests in Nairobi was announced by Acting Police Inspector General Douglas Kanja on Wednesday, just hours before a planned protest calling for the president's resignation. The police cited concerns over the lack of leadership and safety protocols. However, the High Court has stepped in to suspend the ban after a petition filed by the Katiba Institute. The court has ordered a conservatory order suspending the ban on demonstrations in the Nairobi Central Business District and surrounding areas. The petition argues for the right of people to peacefully assemble and demonstrate, with the police's role being to protect them and not use excessive force.
Moving on to South African matters, President Cyril Ramaphosa pledged on Thursday to revive South Africa's flagging economy and extend prosperity to many of the left out of it by saving factories and farms, building roads, and seizing the opportunities presented by the green energy. In his first policy, that is the speech to a new parliament, since the African National Congress, ANC, lost its ruling majority in May, forcing it to team up with its rivals. Ramaphosa also pledged to get on top of the nation's debt burden. Here is more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has committed to revitalizing South Africa's struggling economy and ensuring prosperity for all citizens. In his first policy address to the new parliament, he emphasized the need to resuscitate factories and farms, build essential infrastructure, and harness green energy opportunities. Acknowledging the high levels of unemployment and inequality, Ramaphosa vowed to turn the nation into a construction hub, focusing on roads, schools, and hospitals.
We will pursue a smart industrial policy that focuses on the competitiveness of our economy.
He also outlined plans to stabilize the national debt and invest in renewable energy projects, aiming for inclusive growth that benefits the previously marginalized. The president's vision includes a collaborative approach with coalition partners to address the pressing economic challenges facing the country.
Nigeria averted a wave of strikes with a critical agreement of a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira, that is $44 per month, finally breaking months of deadlock. This breakthrough, announced jointly by government officials and the union leaders, comes as Nigeria faces its worst cost of living crisis, that is in decades. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, had pushed hard for the increase, citing its vital role in supporting the struggling workers. The new minimum wage, more than double of the previous one. It also includes a provision for the review every 3 years, reflecting a proactive approach to the economic uncertainties. Here is the full report.
Nigeria's labor unions have reached a pivotal agreement with the government, establishing a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira, approximately $44 a month. This decision comes after prolonged negotiations aimed at addressing the severe cost of living crisis affecting millions. The previous wage, set at 30,000 naira, was deemed insufficient amid soaring inflation and economic challenges. Union leaders expressed mixed feelings about the increase, emphasizing the necessity for immediate action despite ongoing economic hardships. The agreement will also allow for wage reviews every 3 years, a shift from the previous 5-year cycle, reflecting the urgent need for adjustments in response to economic conditions.
The African Development Bank, AFDB, has approved $1 billion loan to Transnet, South Africa's state-owned railway and ports operator, to renovate South Africa's ailing transporting infrastructure. The financial injection is a part of ambitious $8.1 billion investment plan aimed at addressing the long-standing challenges in the national rail and port systems, critical for enhancing economic competitiveness and attracting the foreign investment. Listen to the full report.
The African Development Bank said on Thursday it had approved a $1 billion loan to South Africa's state-owned railway and ports company, Transnet. The 25-year loan, fully guaranteed by the South African government, is pivotal in kickstarting Transnet's comprehensive investment strategy. In response to the African Development Bank's announcement, Transnet's Group Chief Executive Michelle Phillips underscored the loan's critical role in stabilizing and enhancing the rail network, foreseeing a ripple effect across South Africa's broader economy. President Cyril Ramaphosa, prioritizing economic revival and unemployment reduction amidst a challenging political landscape, views such investments as pivotal in steering South Africa towards sustainable growth. His administration, facing electoral setbacks earlier this year, has been compelled to forge new political alliances, highlighting the urgency of effective economic policies and infrastructure upgrades.
Now moving on to Congo, warring parties in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is the DRC, have agreed to extend a humanitarian ceasefire that has been in place since July 5th. The U.S. State Department announced on Wednesday that the truce, originally set to expire on Friday, will follow the last for an additional 15 days until August. The extension aims to reduce the ongoing violence and allow humanitarian access to those affected by the conflict, particularly in the eastern North Kivu province, which has been severely impacted by fighting among other 100 armed groups, including the M23 rebel group, allegedly supported by Rwanda. Here is more.
The latest truce in the decades-long conflicts that was to end on Friday has been extended by 15 days until August 3. The U.S. State Department stated in a statement that urged all actors to respect the truce that has been violated since it took effect on July 5. According to Karin Kaneza of the Human Rights Watch, the violence concentrated in the eastern North Kivu province that resulted not just in arbitrary killings and arrests, but also in sexual abuses with women and children affected the most. The decade-long conflicts in eastern Congo has produced one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with over 100 armed groups fighting for control of the mineral-rich area near the border with Rwanda. A key actor in the conflict, the M23 group, is allegedly backed by Rwanda. Along with other groups, the rebels are accused of carrying out mass killings in the conflict that has spread from the frontlines surrounding villages and displaced at least 7 million people, many beyond the reach of the aid. Aid groups have complained of insufficient resources even for those within their reach. In recent months, people fleeing violence has also had to dodge artillery fire and drone the strikes.
Former Mozambique Finance Minister Manuel Chang has arrived in the courtroom of Brooklyn, that is New York, as his trial begins over allegations tied to the tuna bond scandal that plunged the countries into financial turmoil, that is in 2016. Charged with bribery, fraud, and money laundering, Chang's case highlights the international efforts to address corruption and financial misconduct on a global scale. Here comes the full report.
In the federal court in Brooklyn, Assistant U.S. Attorney Peter Kuch asserted that Chang abused his authority for personal gain, engaging in bribery, fraud, and money laundering schemes. He specifically cited $7 million in alleged kickbacks received by Chang himself. The fallout from the scandal has seen multiple convictions, including that of Ndambi Guebuza, son of former President Armando Guebuza. Attempts to prosecute Chang in South Africa were unsuccessful, leading to his extradition to the U.S. in 2023. Chang's defense has sought to dismiss the case on grounds including the applicability of U.S. law and Chang's status as a former foreign official. These arguments were rejected by U.S. District Judge Nicholas Garofis, setting the stage for a potentially landmark trial addressing corruption and international finance.
And that international news brings us to our very first break. We have more lined up for you. Shortly after the break, topics you can't afford to miss. Stay tuned with us.
Your best moment as an artist and your worst moment as an artist.
Sijui nilikuwa nafikiria. Nilimtext by the way. Sikujua ni yeye but nilitext.
Ulikuwa unamuongelelea
maybe ni custom amenitafuta. Si ni tissue.
Ni tissue.
Hizi ni tissue. Na udugulu. Watu mnatazama huu ni nani? Because by the way kuna hidden meaning. There is a hidden meaning. Hata ningekuuliza ungeniambia ni queen.
Queen wa wapi huyu?
Hii art ni Bairo black na blue. Ile nichukua 4 months kuimaliza. Ukiona hii tribe ametoboa mdomo, hii design ako kwa ndoa.
John, what will you do if ungeshinda jackpot sai?
Kucheza na matope.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. Now moving on to the matters of Haiti. In a call for a peace and stability, Hate Minister Gary Conil has urged the gangs to surrender their weapon and recognize the authority of state amidst ongoing violence in the national capital, Port-au-Prince, with reports indicating that gangs control around 80% of the capital. Conil's plea comes amidst after powerful gang leader, that is Barbecue, calling for a national dialogue to address the current crisis. Here is more.
Conil highlighted the dire situation in Port-au-Prince, where everyday life has become a battle for survival due to rampant gang violence. His call for gangs to surrender their weapons and recognize the state's authority reflects a desperate plea for peace and stability in the country. Barbecue, a prominent gang leader, had previously accused the Prime Minister of failing to engage in dialogue with his alliance.
Let's focus on the solution. The real solution is a national dialogue where every Haitian, without discrimination, has a right to speak. And that's what the mafia doesn't want. They don't wish dialogue because they want to continue their war. They don't want dialogue because they don't.
The Prime Minister's call for peace comes as a multinational security support mission, including police officers from Kenya, Chad, and Benin, is deployed to help local authorities restore security. With the deployment of additional personnel from various countries, the international community is joining forces to combat the escalating gang violence in Haiti and pave the way for a safer and more secure future for its citizens.
A recent study by the World Bank has unveiled a dire mental health crisis among Palestinians, with over a half of the adult population exhibiting symptoms of depression. The findings presented in March in 2023 revealing that 71% of the adults in Gaza Strip and 58% in the West Bank are affected. This highlighted the severe psychological toll of prolonged conflict and instability in the region. Here is more.
Fear, depression, sleep deprivation, anger and aggression are prevalent, experts and practitioners told the Associated Press. Children are most vulnerable, especially because many parents can barely hold themselves together. There are few resources to help Palestinians process what they are going through.
I never imagined that I would see these things. All that would happen to me when I went to give birth, that I would lose my child and not know where he is. I want my son. I want him back.
A high rate, 46.3% of current mental disorders, was found with rates of current depressive episode, generalized anxiety disorder, and somatization disorder being relatively high in comparison with rates in other countries.
Most of the cases that therapists encounter here in the center are cases of children who suffer from fear and sleep problems, and adults who suffer from insomnia, tension, and extreme anger, as many people no longer have the ability to control themselves.
The psychological impact on war in Gaza in such an environment is immense. People face the dual burden of trying to provide care in severely compromised settings while coping with the constant fear of further attacks.
I have shock. I wake up multiple times because of the shock, and I don't understand what is around me. My children have been affected. My daughter is suffering. She has been affected psychologically. And my sons have started urinating on themselves.
This situation leads to heightened levels of stress, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of helplessness. Constant bombardment, displacement, and loss of family members are predisposing many children to anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other adverse mental health conditions.
Russia and Ukraine have successfully exchanged 95 prisoners of war each, as confirmed by officials from both countries on Wednesday. This exchange, facilitated by the United Arab Emirates UAE, marks the 54th since the swap since the onset of the conflict in February 2022, and this is the 6th mediation by the UAE that is this year. Let's get the report.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the gas state involvement, writing on a telegram that 95 members of a defense forces has been liberated from the Russian captivity. The Russian Defense Ministry expressed its gratitude to the UAE for its mediation efforts. Ukraine officials have stated that over 34,000 people, both civilians and military, have returned from Russian captivity since the start of the conflict. According to the UN, most Ukrainian prisoners suffer routine medical neglect, severe and systematic mistreatment, and even torture while in detention. There's also been isolated reports of abuse of Russian soldiers, mostly during capture or transit of internment sites. The Russian Defense Ministry stated the freed Russian soldiers will be flown to Moscow for medical treatment and rehabilitation.
The United States stepped up to help Sudan's crisis by pledging $203 million, this aid being critical to stop the suffering from the spilling over into the neighboring countries. According to a UN ambassador, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the money will be used to build new homes for refugees, give them currency to help them housing costs, and get children back in school after being displaced by the conflict. The war, which has been raging for over a year, has already forced many to flee for safety, with tens of thousands crossing to the border into Chad. Here is a report.
The U.S. has pledged $203 million to help avert the escalating crisis in Sudan. UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield announced this funding aimed at providing shelter for refugees and cash assistance for basic needs. Nearly 9 million people have been displaced, with over 1 million fleeing the country amid ongoing violence. The situation has led to severe food shortages, with many facing famine conditions. Thomas-Greenfield called for global action, emphasizing the need for all parties to engage in dialogue to end the conflict.
That the United States Agency for International Development will provide an additional $203 million in funding to the people of Sudan. Partners will use this funding to build new shelter for refugees or provide cash assistance so that they can pay rent. And it will help children whose lives have been upended by conflict return to school. It will provide emergency food assistance to those who are starving.
The UN has requested $2.7 billion to address humanitarian needs, but has received only a fraction of that amount.
And that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been wonderful having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and global developments as you keep it locked with us. I've been your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and meeting you here at the Ambassador on Monday at 1 p.m. I wish you all the most beautiful afternoon and a wonderful weekend ahead. Stay safe and see you all on Monday.